You know what? Let's get some introductions going, guys. I want Alfred the GOAT to introduce himself first because Alfred and I met a few years back. He's was helping build and run a very large C21 office with the Don, not the GOAT, because the GOAT's Alfred. The Don is Felix, his broker. They were building a really big office. I think you guys had a few hundred agents at one point, and at the same time, Alfred was building his business. But he can tell you a little bit more about what he's doing, who he is, in case some of you guys that are jumping on don't know who we are and want to know why the hell should I listen to Al, to Roberto, to David. A lot of people probably know Melissa more than they know us. But go ahead, Alfred.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Well, my name is Alfred Galvan. You're right. I've been in the industry less than 5 years, and I became a full-time agent during COVID, during the easy times, right? But in that time, I was able to go to 7 different brokerages. I was doing free internship to learn from top agents. I don't want to say their name. To this day, they're very good friends of mine. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to speed up the process and become a real closer, real fast. And I learned that being a real closer is great, but you also have to be a real opener as well. But I was able to train right away with Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry. I also do private coaching for Grant Cardone. I'm a certified coach with Grant, which I'm proud of. That his system, the sales process, I've revisionized my business. I mean, that's all I think about is work. I go to sleep, I think about work. I'm in this call, I'm thinking about work. But I love being a real estate agent and a coach and mentor to a lot of people. So super excited to be in this room with you guys. And of course, I can't here to find out who Melissa is and more about her.
Cool.
Oh, does that mean it's my turn?
Well, let's go to we'll save the best for last. We'll
okay.
Roberto, myself, and then Roberto, why should we listen to you?
Why should you listen to me? Let's see. Well, I'm doing a lot of the back end to support, getting these events. We're putting out more and more events. We're trying to get more and more people on these calls.
Okay, let me help you with that. Roberto always struggles bragging a little bit about himself, but Roberto's a computer engineer. He graduated as a computer engineer in the aerospace world. So Roberto is extremely detailed. Roberto is extremely good at systems, tools, and jumped into real estate. Actually, not even first with me. I think it was with Alfred before even we started doing anything. And then I kind of stole them from Alfred. They had a little relationship going on. I said, no, it's my guy. And I took him away temporarily. And now here we are all together. But Roberto is really the backbone of a lot of the stuff that we do here at our company and even other companies that we do a lot of marketing and stuff for. So I wanted to put out a little more because Roberto's going to continue right now. He's not going to tell you that part. He kind of gets a little shy, and he actually went from a salary corporate job working with the government with a lot of aerospace projects, doing $250,000 a year, to coming with me and making $0 his first year.
Yeah, pre bono work.
So real estate, that's how it works. He is about what we do.
Absolutely. And you know what, real quick, I think I didn't pay attention as well to that question. Why should people listen to me? Let me answer that question. The reason why people should be listening to me is because, first and foremost, I do real estate 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. There's not a day I don't do real estate. I might take moments off, but I don't take a day off. Number 2, I hit the pavement. I'm always out in the streets. Not only do I cold call every day, I also run a Zoom call where we do live cold calling. That's how I met Robert. I do target a lot of these expires for sale by owners, which is the cream of the crop. I deal with probably 9 different companies. I'm registered with over 50 pay-as-you-close lead company resources, and I probably run about 9 CRMs. So I'm very active when it comes to real estate, and I know what's working, I know what's not working, and I probably know how to answer, and I know probably Melissa and all of you guys know, I probably know how to answer every single type of objection you can throw at me. So I'm pretty active. That's why you should listen to me. And
And
I feel
that's why we
very
have you on. That's exactly why we have you on this call, because there's very few real estate agents that work hard, right? Everybody sees the results, but they don't see the road. And Alfred, from the very beginning I seen his journey, and he's making it. So Roberto, finish talking about yourself real quick so we can jump to the good ones, Melissa.
Well, yeah, like you said, real estate agent, loan officer, do a lot of back end for our company, a lot of the marketing that we do for everybody here. We put in systems in place, and that's kind of, what we're talking about all the time, like marketing. You have to market yourself, you have to put in the systems in place, you have to hire the right people. And that's all we do here. And that's all the back end that I do. And why you should listen to me is because if you want to implement systems the way we have them implemented in our business, this is the room you want to be in. This is the room you want to be in. And again, guys, just a quick reminder, please post your questions in the comments. Melissa is going to go into a lot of detail into what we're going to talk about today.
You're on the spot there.
Post those questions in here in the comments below.
And I'll just talk about myself for 30 quick seconds. I've been in real estate for 15 years. I didn't make a dime for 18 months. And the following 12 months after those 18 months, I did $750,000 in gross commissions paid directly to me. And that's one of the reasons you might, want to listen to me. I've also helped a lot of the large Facebook and Instagram groups grow. You can ask Tristan and Lab Coat Agents about me. You can ask some of the guys at Real, Sharon. You can ask him about me. We've done work with him too. We've worked directly with him. We've helped a lot of the guys do a lot of different things in the actual industry. And a couple of our partners have huge brokers, 1,000 agents plus, things like that. I've trained with Mike Ferry, even though I don't follow his lead. The only thing that I like, and I'm going to leave you guys with this, and right before we pass it to Melissa, never get attached to the outcome is the number one thing that I love that Mike Ferry says. And in real estate, if you get attached to that closing that just didn't close or was that close to closing and didn't close, and you dwell on it, you're going to lose the other 5 that are behind it that you should be focusing on, putting them into escrow and trying to get those closed. So that's a little bit about myself. Melissa, please introduce yourself.
Oh goodness. Okay. So my name is Melissa English. I am licensed in Georgia and Louisiana. A little bit about my background. I got licensed at 19, so it's been almost 19 years ago. I'm from a really small town in South Georgia and said, you know what, I'm going to go get my real estate license and I'm going to go move to Atlanta. So new area, I did have family there, but new area, I knew nobody. All right. I had about, $500 to my name. I was broke. But I was like, I got to make this work. Like there was no option as far as failing. Like failure was not an option. But the thing about it is when I started, YouTube, Facebook, none of that existed. And most of the people at the office, they weren't very friendly. So it was, I quickly learned this is a figure it out as you go business. But that year, by the grace of God, I was able to hit the top 10 in my brokerage. And I think during that time, we had about 2,500 agents or so. So I was really proud of that. And a lot of that went to systems, like Roberto spoke on about systems. Like that's super important. Having a plan, kind of knowing where you're, what you're doing, where you're going, because we all want to go somewhere, right? But I laser focused my target and who I was going after, and just hit the ground running from that. So, and throughout my career, I've ventured with all the types of clients, right? So investors, I've represented banks and all the things. And today, I primarily work with investors for the most part today. So yeah, that's a little bit of my backstory.
Now you're our NAR expert for the day.
Yeah, so basically with the NAR stuff, and I think it was you that found my YouTube video on that. Yeah. That YouTube video has gone crazy. Yep. I've gotten such amazing feedback, and how I explain and how I teach and how I train, I try to simplify it because, you know, everything can be so complex and so complicated, but at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be, you know. And this whole settlement, honestly, it's really not that bad. It's really not. It's all in how you look at it and how you portray it to be, is what it's going to be, right? So I think for agents, and I know for me, being in the business for so long, of course, it freaked me out because I'm like, what's going on? Like, all these people were talking about it, all in these groups and all this stuff. But I'm more of a realist. So I'm like, no, let me go figure this out. Let me go, like, really do my own research. So I went straight to the NAR website, and I dug, and I, you know, threw out all the junk that doesn't matter, you know, to my business anyway. And I focused on what does matter. And I simply just broke that down to what I learned from straight on their website. Broke that down into how I could respond to questions that my clients were already asking. They were already asking these questions from the news. But in all reality, not everybody even knows about this settlement. So, you know, knowledge is power. The more we know as real estate agents, you don't want to hide right now. Now's your time to shine, right? So you gotta educate yourself, be knowledgeable, so that you can have that open communication and conversation about it, and then you're golden, you know.
Yeah, it's something that fear. I've always thrived in the market that's a fearful market, and I think that a lot of agents that have been around for a long time do really, really well in a market where there's fear. And right now, there's a lot of things going on. It's the NAR settlement, it's the election year, it's how our crazy politicians are jumping in and out of elections. So there's a lot of things going on, and at least in our area, I don't know what you see, because Alfred's a little bit further away from us, and I know you're in a different state, but you're starting to see a little bit of that uncertainty a little bit. Things are starting to happen. And you're starting to even see the government officials, you know, wanting to relax the situation a little bit, with rates going to drop in September, so they say. So there's a lot of different things like that happening. So I think one of the important things is, and I'm going to put both you and Al on the spot right now, but I'm going to start with Melissa. If you could take, and because I want to be all about value in the next few minutes here, if you can take the few most important things that you did on your YouTube video, that you explained what it is and how to handle it as a real estate professional, I think that would be the most value over the next few minutes, because I watched it and I'm like, wow, she did a really, really good job, right? But most agents, you know, a lot of agents, they're not going to even take time to watch a video that's more than a few minutes long, right? So it's important that we give. I want to give. I know we've been on with a couple of other guys, and everybody's been a little bit different. Everybody has the same mindset. If you're a good agent, you have the same mindset where, hey, nothing's really changed, but this is how I do it. And the way I learned when I jumped in the real estate industry initially was, I had like 5-7 real estate agents around me, and I was listening to everybody's conversation with their clients, and I was taking bits and pieces from every person, and then I made my own, you know, sales pitch, so to speak. So we want to take the few things, the most important 4 or 5 things from your video, if we can have you dissect them real quick and just go over it, so that we can get all of the diamonds real quick, and then we'll post a link for other people to watch it if they have time to watch the whole thing. And then I know you got a really cool like giveaway too, that you give agents out too, that we can do. But unless, Alfred, you want to ask her something a little bit different, or?
Oh, no. I'm actually more excited to watch that video now that you're talking about it.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a good one. So look, it is a little long, but it's worth the hour. But primarily, it's broken down to the 5 hardest questions that sellers are going to ask. So if you are a listing agent, listings are your thing, maybe you just tune in for that part, right? But then on the flip side, it's the 5 hardest questions that buyers are going to ask. And so it's all in one. So I tried to make it to where they're on, you know, both sides, depending on where you're coming from. I would say to sum up parts from that, I definitely want to point out things that I've seen in groups and agents that are saying and that they're doing that is wrong, and you will get in trouble and fined and all this stuff. So it's really important to know these things. Okay. Number 1 If you are a buyer's agent and Bob is your buyer, and he calls you and wants to see 123 Smith Street, and you call that listing agent doesn't answer her phone, whatever. And so you have no idea if a compensation is going to be paid. You legally cannot not show Bob that house. You have to show him the house. Now, and this is also true if Bob is not local and he wants you just to go do a video tour. For you to legally, first and foremost, for you to legally unlock that door, you have to have an agreement with Bob. Now, that agreement per your state could simply be for the day, whatever, because the buyer's agreement is just like the listing agreement. There's dates involved, there's their pricing, all the things. You've got to have that agreement in place, and you just tell Bob, if Bob calls you from a lead online and says, I want to go see this house, cool. For me to legally be able to open that door for you or, video the house, I've got to have an agreement signed. And again, it's no different than working with an attorney or going to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned. Everybody needs something signed. That's business. And I personally have had the experience of, in the past, showing homes to buyers Christmas Eve, and they ghost me, right? Because there was no need to have an agreement signed. So this whole agreement thing being signed and kind of it being like you have to do it per the law, I don't see it as a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. Now, again, if Bob says, I want to go see this house, but the listing agent's not answering the phone, you don't know if they're paying a commission, you still show Bob the house, right? But at that point, you've already...
I'm just going to back you up 1 second because you just said something important. I want to break it down while you're talking. So what you're saying is that before it was harder to get a buyer to sign a buyer's agency agreement. And now you actually have this little law that's been written as, hey, I can't do this without this. And that's
right.
one important way to look at it. You hit it. Sorry, continue.
So now a lot of agents are like, well, dang, now I'm not going to get paid. No, now you for sure are going to get paid because there's an agreement in place. Before, you didn't know, really. They could have ghosted you, or they could have went off and met their cousin after you worked with them for 6 months and you had no agreement in place. But now you do. And it's per law that you do that. And so it's going to be standard business for us moving forward. And I think it's such an amazing, a positive thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's how you present yourself and how you set that expectation when it comes to money, right? And that's a whole separate conversation that every buyer's agent has to decide up front what you're going to charge, right? So, but if Bob says, I want to go see this house, you still show him the house. But if you've already set that expectation and have that agreement, which you should already have the agreement and already know what Bob's going to pay you for your services, and you show the house that you don't know commission's going to be paid or not, and he wants to move forward with putting in an offer, cool. Go ahead, put in your offer. You don't need to know how much they're paying, because in that offer, you're going to have a part of like an exhibit, attachment to that contract that says, we want this sales price, this much in closing costs. P.S. We also need this amount of money in commission. They're either going to accept the offer, reject it, counter it, whatever, and it works just like the same as any other part of the offer. So there's that. But you show Bob the house. Now, if they reject that offer or counter it back and they're like, no, we're not paying commission, well, then you go to Bob and say, what do you want to do? They'll give you this price. They'll pay this much in closing costs. They're not going to pay my fee. What do you want to do? Do you want to walk? Do you want to counter it back? And life goes on. If they, and I mentioned that in the video as well, is that, I've had buyers, we've been in due diligence under contract. I always have my lenders run a preliminary cash to close so that my buyer knows what their money is going to be upfront. And I have them give me a good faith estimate on what that payment is for that house, taxes, insurance, all the things. I have them send that to the buyer during due diligence because I need to make sure that buyer feels good with those numbers. No different today. except today is going to also have my money included if that seller is not paying, if that makes sense. And if it, you know, I've had it to where buyers have backed out. They're like, no, the taxes are too expensive. The HOA is too expensive. Can't afford this house. We, you know, back out of the contract and we move on to another one. It can happen with our money too. You know, I mean, it's possible. So that's kind of the biggest thing, though. The point I'm trying to make is that just because you might not know what that agent's offering in commission, if the seller's offering anything at all, still show the house. Just set that expectation. And I explain that more in detail in that video on how to do that.
So Melissa, there's a question that is kind of what you just talked about, and that's one question that I had. See how you personally would handle it. So let's say on that counter offer you talked about, they're not paying for the commission. So what's your sales pitch to your buyer at that point?
So here's the deal. It's not really a sales pitch at that point. We've passed that point. So I'm proving my value day one. Day one, before we go look at anything, because I legally have to have an agreement, right? So I'm going to go ahead and lay out my value to that buyer as to what my fee is to work the real estate transaction with them, and how I'm going to protect them and all the things that go with that. So I've already had that conversation. We've come to the agreement of what I'm going to charge for my service. They've agreed to pay that. That's already been done on the front end. So when it comes to the offer process and then sellers saying, no, I'm not paying that, well, then I'm going back to Bob and I'm saying, hey, remember that 3% we agreed upon, or that $5,000 we agreed upon? Seller's not willing to pay that. Do you want to counter them back again, or do you want to walk, or are you good with paying that? And I'm throwing the ball back in his court. That's the communication between the buyer and the seller. He and I already have our agreement in place. Just like the seller and the listing agent already have their agreement in place, that's done. So now we're at offer. That's between buyer and seller and what they want to do. You know what I mean? Does that make sense on that?
Yeah, 100%. It does make completely sense. And I think one of the important things is, you said you have to set up the situation from the very beginning when that conversation happens up front. Like, hey, this is what I'm expecting, and these are the different ways of accomplishing getting me paid. You know, you can set up the offer at a certain price, or if the counter offer comes back where they like your price, they like everything, but they're not paying my commission, then maybe you can also adjust the price by 10 grand to get me my 10 grand, and your payment's going to change. Now it's like a car salesman almost in that aspect, where your payment, and let's call your lender, how much is your payment going to change if you pay me out of pocket 10 grand, or if you just bump up the offer another 10 grand, and your payment's going to change $8 a month. So it almost feels like we're a little bit of a car salesman, but you have to be well informed enough, is what it sounds like, to be able to do that with your lender. And you're doing it up front with your lender. You're saying, hey, this is the cash to close. This is what my expectation is. And that's the most important thing. One of the most important things I took from your video was saying, hey, all of these expectations need to be set up front, and you have to show them what the scenario looks like one way or another, so that they already have that expectation in their head. And I took that to heart, and I've been using that with my buyers, and I haven't had any issues setting up that value proposition for them. If my services are up to your par, this is my expectation. This is how it can work, and go from there. So that's one of the things that I personally took from your video, and thought it was extremely important. And at the same time, how are you setting it up for your sellers? How are you preparing them? They're like, well, I don't have to pay anybody.
Those are easy. Sellers are easy, right?
Well,
and listen, most buyers, they don't even know, especially if they're a first-time home buyer, or they've, they don't remember when they bought their house 10 years ago, who paid for what, right? So you don't want to create it to where it's like it's a bad thing and you're scared to talk about it. Communicate about it, because really, essentially, the change is this. There's now more transparency. Where it was a gray area for buyers, it's now crystal clear. That buyer knows exactly what they're paying day one before they ever enter a door, right? And so I think for them, don't overcomplicate it in the sense of, oh gosh, it's scary. It's not. Just, be upfront, confident, build that confidence and having that conversation. That's what it's all about. And then they trust you, right? Because they know, like, trust you already. That's why they're talking with you. And and just get them to roll with it. And I'm gonna just share with you really quick history. So buyer's agents didn't really even exist until like the 80s. So previous to that, the deal was this. You had a listing agent sign in the yard. Buyers were trained at that point in time, just call the number on the sign. There was no internet, right? So if you were looking for houses, you were in the newspaper or you were driving around. And then you called Jan at the front yard, call her and say, hey, I'm interested in this house, will you show me? Well, that was normal business then. So Jan, who had responsibilities to that seller, to protect that seller and their interests, be like, sure, I'll show you the house, Bob. Come on, meet me over here at 2:00. Let Bob in, show him the house, would run the full transaction, right? But Bob wasn't represented. Jan treated Bob as a customer because her client was the seller. Now, here's the deal. During that time, before the 80s, listing co-op or listing commissions were still at 6%. 5-6%. That was kind of like the quote unquote norm, 5-6%. But what would happen is Jan would keep all 6. She would work both sides, treating Bob as a customer, her client as a client, and that was that. But, and you might remember this term, you might have heard of it before, the buyers beware came around, because buyers started realizing how bad they were getting screwed, and it became a big thing. So that's when buyer's agency was even born and formed, and that's how listing agents said, you know what, of this 6%, I'm just going to give you half. You work that side, I'm gonna work this side, and we'll just go with that. And there you go. So I don't ever see it going back to that again. I really, really don't. I don't see buyers trying to wing this thing by themselves. There will be some that will, but guaranteed it's going to be headline news when something happens. And I think somebody posted about one of them losing like 20 grand in earnest money or something. Oh, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So sure. The history lesson is cool. I didn't really go back to it because I don't think you were around back then as an agent, and neither was I, because we're way too young for that.
Right.
Don't let these gray hairs fool you. But with that said, I didn't really realize and understand how that happened back then in the 80s, and it makes perfect sense, and the evolution kind of works. And now that I've heard it, I think you're right. I don't think it's going back to that. I think it happens sometimes, old agency, things like that, but it's not buyer beware. Their buyers are aware, and we should have a car salesman, the same way.
I've always said that. I've always said, can I hire somebody as an agent to represent me to buy a car?
Yeah.
Who can go and search
right? They're called brokers too. Yeah, that's the next edition to get one of these settlements.
1-800 call Robert.
For sure. Yeah, that's important.
No, I think you had asked about sellers. To me, because I work a lot. I work mostly with, buyers, I guess, on the buy side from the investment, but those are more buys off market. So it's not like that traditional buy. But on the sell side, they're listings on market. And, it's like this, having a listing presentation, it's all about setting that expectation to the seller. And if the seller says, I heard on the news, I no longer have to pay the buyer's broker anymore. Well, you never really had to begin with, but here's the thing. It would be a competitive disadvantage if I didn't inform you that not paying a buyer's broker could impact how many offers you get and if your house actually makes it to closing. Because I have worked with unrepresented buyers before, and it is a freaking nightmare. So, you need that buyer's agent to kind of navigate that whole side of the process. And don't try to, it's sticky, man. It's really sticky.
Yeah, for sure.
They are totally worth that value. I take my own personal houses, and I've sold 3 in the past couple of years. I gladly pay those buyer's agents. Whatever that market is, like Louisiana's average is like 2.5, Georgia's like 3, right? 100%. So gladly pay them because I know they're worth it, and I'm an agent, right? Yeah. So I 100% will pay that, and I share that with my clients on listing appointments. You won't catch me not offering a buyer's co-op, you know, because I know it's gonna affect the offer. Which brings me to this though, and this is another really important thing that's like legal, that I've seen some stuff floating around that's not right, and I want to make sure that everybody knows. When you go on these listing appointments, you can't tell Sally that if she does not offer a buyer's co-op, that nobody's going to come show her house. So that falls under that steering, right? And so, and all this stuff was just stuff I pulled from the NAR website, right? So I went through and I was like, okay, what matters to me in my business? So you cannot tell Sally that agents might not show her house if they don't offer a co-op, right? But you can present it to Sally in a way that says, look, why don't we just take a look at what other sellers in your neighborhood are doing? And then let's kind of see what they might be offering. Same with like their sales price, like a comp, and lay it out and let her decide at that point.
We did have, you know, this is our third interview that we've had with people that have talked about the NAR settlement, how to attack it from the buyer's perspective, how to attack it from the seller's perspective. And Alfred, one of the things, the common things that we've seen, right, and trying to explain value on both sides, either as a buyer's agent or as a seller's agent, is one of the things that Melissa just brought up, right? Having a good presentation as to how much value you can bring to the table up front. Not when you're making offers, not when you're showing homes, right? All that stuff should be done very upfront so that there are no issues. Because we have a few questions, right? I think Angel was asking, there's, I guess, two conflicting questions and two of the things that we talked about. You know, and you can offer a little bit more for the home so that you can ask for credit back so that you can pay the agent. The side effect of that, of course, is what if the house doesn't appraise? Because there's another question that Angel posted was, can the buyer pay the agent through the loan?
I think that there's going to be loan programs eventually for that, you know, but it's just like on the HUD statement. So, you know, like with the lender, the lender's paid by the buyer through their closing costs, because that's part of that closing cost is the lender's commission, because the lender makes commission too. And it's usually on average 1% or so. And so I would assume, you know, that there's loans that are going to be rolled out to be able to help with that. I really feel like it's based upon your buyer and your market. So like my average sales price in this market's like $250,000. That's average sales. You know, that could be a first-time home buyer to a middle buyer. So those folks are going to need the most help. When you start getting into the $1 million bracket, which in California, $1 million may be your first time, I might not need as much help, right? Or they have more assets they can cash out, you know, where those programs might not be a thing. Does that answer the question or no? Did I not answer?
I think it does, and it doesn't, because it's kind of one of those things that I haven't seen anything that you can do that through the loan site just yet.
Yeah, that would be a question for a lender for sure. For sure.
And that's one of the things I think we have a lender coming up in the next few weeks as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I think it's important, like you said, right? Providing that much value. But going back to objections, like Alfred, what kind of questions have you seen right now that are popping up? Because we do weekly meetings where we deal with objections, and the same thing has popped up over and over again, right? And we have more questions. Donna, feel free to just type the question in the comments and we'll take care of it right away.
And we're going to be sending out Melissa's video as well, the link in the email for all the attendees that showed up and didn't show up in the list that we have. And then she has a cool little resource too that I think she can hook you guys up with. I think she put together like a little.
Oh yeah, that thing's wildfire right now.
We'll send you guys a link to both of those so you guys can download it and have it handy. So don't feel like you have to take all the notes because it'll be on the video and they'll be on her PDF. And I know Alfred's a little bit different. I think Melissa's a little more of a passive closer as well, is what it sounds like just by listening to her a little bit. But Alfred's like an aggressive, like Mike Ferry, Grant Cardone closer that takes no for an answer, right? And it's not for all of us because it's not for me, but I know a lot of you guys out there want to hear a little bit about maybe how, just if you can give us like just one or two, Alfred, of how do you handle a buyer and a seller, just something quick, like the number one objective of your buyers and how you handle it, and the number one objective of your seller and how you handle it, and just so we can, I know everybody has other things going on. I want to make it short and sweet and to the point. Melissa's been good, and then I'm going to close it off with trying to pull another couple little quick diamonds from Melissa before we leave.
Awesome. So in the last 2 weeks, I've been on 7 listing appointments. Just so you guys know, 95% of my business is listings. The last time I did a buyer was a month ago. It was 2 years me doing a buyer. 2 weeks ago, it was my first buyer in 2 years. So I deal with a lot of sellers. To be honest with you guys, this whole NAR thing, I think the more we as agents talk about it, it just gets spread like a wildfire, because on these appointments, out of the 7 that I went to, only one person brought it up to me on Sunday in Santa Clarita that happens to be my neighbor. And when I showed up, he's like, Alfred, I'm so excited. And I'm like, oh, why? Because I'm here? He's like, no, because I don't have to pay a buyer commission. And then I agree with them. And I kind of say like, well, Melissa said, you know what? Did you know that you didn't have to even pay that 20 years ago? It's just that things are a little different now. Now, let me explain to you, because we had our attorney come to our office on Monday, John Manzor. And he explained to me about this whole NAR, right? Certain things that we can say, certain things that we can't. And like Melissa was saying, like, if a buyer, like, for example, Melissa, I was going to ask you that question too when you were saying that. For example, if we give referrals, because I get a lot of referrals from online lead companies, right? I'm not going to name them. Some of these online lead companies do not let you ask the question, right? Are you working with an agent, right? Certain questions we cannot ask. And of course, if you're just meeting this person for the first time, nobody's going to want to sign anything with you because they don't know who you are and you haven't built a report. So my train of thought is, how is it going to impact these huge companies like Willow and all these other companies that I don't want to name, right? Because they're so trained to, like, Alfred, go open the door. And once you're in the kitchen table, then you start fact finding.
Anyways, they're going to change. They have to pivot just like we have to pivot. Their business model is changing just like ours is. Now, how they're going to roll that out, I don't know. But, you know, at the end of the day, if it is a Willow lead, then I know I have
a house
to have
lead,
that
a house lead.
There you go, a house lead. Hey, you guys better,
yeah.
You guys better have it in an addendum or not, something. Anyways,
yeah,
but
I mean,
go ahead, Melissa.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I know that you've got to have it signed, right? So even if you just date it for the day, it's got to be signed to show, and then you could try to sell yourself moving past that point. But as far as like asking if they have an agent and all of that, I mean, that's a normal question. So I would assume that they'll have to make some changes.
Absolutely. So back to the question, guys. I am here in California. She is in another state. So I'm not sure how many of the listeners that are here. I'm just going to answer California. So what I told John is, look, John, at the end of the day, you don't have to pay a buyer agent. But let me ask you this. Do you want 1 offer or do you want 10 offers? I said, because I'm going to do my job and work very hard for you to find you that buyer so that I could represent both sides. But I think once you explain to them in detail that without the buyer, because I believe the buyer is more important than the seller. The reason why is, first and foremost, the buyer has to have good credit. And how many people here have a 700 FICO score? Raise your hand virtually, right? The buyer also has to have a down payment and closing costs. Now, you guys know we're in the state of California. Everything's expensive. Actually, a gallon of milk costs more than a gallon of gas. So just think about that. Good credit, down payment, closing costs. And number 4, right now with so low inventory here in the state of California, everybody right now it's against the fence, right? Waiting for September because these rates are going to go down. And I've heard this 2 years ago and they're not going down, right? And when you tell a buyer, when was the best time to buy a house? I always say yesterday, right? Because if you think about it, if this rate goes down, which I hope it does, there's going to be more buyers on the market and the houses are going to go up. Now, me as a listing agent, I'm going to be sitting on the throne just waiting for these offers to come in. Now, all these buyers are going to be actually paying $30,000 to $50,000 more than what the house is worth. And you're right, Melissa, we are spoiled here in California. The last house that I saw worth $250 is somewhere in Crestline or somewhere in the desert, which is over an hour to an
But
hour
you
and a
guys
half.
make the big bucks, though. That's the difference. You make all the big bucks.
Yeah, we're COVID spoiled. I say we COVID spoiled because when I came in, it was during COVID. You know, you could sell a house right away. But what I like about this whole thing that happened is now it levels out the playing field, right? Now the buyer agent can negotiate straight with the sellers. And one thing that our attorney said is when you do submit that purchase agreement with the SPBB, make sure you start at 3% because you can negotiate from the bottom up. You could negotiate from top to bottom because they're going to counter you anyways, right? And I believe the most we can charge is 3%. Don't quote me on that, but I don't think you charge more than that. I'm not sure if you guys knew that, but I heard that from our attorney on Monday. So yeah, it's just informal. As a listing agent, my responsibility is to get top dollar for my seller. And I'm going to tell them what's more important, how much we get paid or how much I net you on your pockets. Now, if they're going to be buying, I'm such a nice guy. Sometimes I'll cut my commission to make it work for the seller and give a little bit more to the buyer agent. And then I'll make my money on the buying side. That's just me. I just want to do the right thing. And once again, this was my neighbor, so I would do that for them. If it's a family, I'll do the same, you know, because I don't want to be a one transactional agent. I want to do a good job for you. If I charge you a little bit, I just say, hey, do me a favor. Please give me a 5-star review that's going to help me in my business that's worth more than $5,000 to $10,000. Number two, if you know anybody else who's thinking about buying in the future, please recommend me. And number three, when you do your home warming party, I'm going to bring the taco guy because I know you're going to invite your whole family and let them know I help you sell and I help you bought that house. So
Melissa's like taco guy. Yeah, it's number one thing out here, Melissa.
Yeah, Melissa, bring the taco guy. You're going to get a lot of people at your open houses. So just by bringing that type of value, I always tell everybody, my best client, his name is Victor Gutierrez. He's never bought a house for me, but he sent me 10 deals already, which is freaking awesome, right?
Let me find them.
No, don't. But anyhow, it's just, you know what? I got into this business to help people. Yes, money is important, but the story behind helping somebody through a transaction that's very stressful. It's super stressful moving. They say it's super stressful public speaking, and they say it's super stressful becoming a parent. So I'm human. I don't try to go in there. I tell them like this. When I come over, Mr. John or Robert, three things are going to happen with me. You're going to put me to work. You're not going to put me to work. And I might not be the listing agent for you. So when I come over, would you like me to park in the sidewalk or would you like me to park in your driveway? If they say park in my driveway, they like me. They're going to do business with me. If they say park in the street, I have to show up and really come out guns blazing. Because remember, when we go to a listing appointment, it's kind of like the Super Bowl. You do not want to mess up. We want to mess up in our role play rooms where we're scripting, you know, talking to each other, dealing with these objections. But it's always going to be the same 5 top objections. Like, no, I'm not interested. No, not right now. I need more time to think about it. I don't have money. I'm going to wait till the election's over. There's always going to be something happening. But I think the more when we show up is the more you listen and you internalize and you give a little bit of empathy, it'll be better for you because nobody wants to be sold, right? Everybody's always being sold all the time. You walk into a store, what can I help you with, right? The kid at the mall, hey, what can I help you with? Are you looking for something? And sometimes I cringe when I go into these stores because instead of them saying, hey, if you're looking for something, that's great. I'm going to be in the corner, by the way, go to the clearance rack. There's some cool shoes there. I wish they would tell me a little more, but they don't. They just, oh, thank you for coming. If you need anything, let me know. Like, that's not the way it works. So I always say you have to have features, advantages, and benefits of working with Alfred the Go, right? That's one. As a buyer from you know, not working a lot of buyers, I'll be very transparent with you guys. I feel like being a buyer and a lender, I feel like my business is dictated on the interest rate, which is not cool because if the interest rate is too high, I'm not doing a lot of business. If the interest, only when the interest rate is low. Now, that's why I only like expires and for sale by owners, right? People who are raising their hand that want to sell. Those are the people that I go after. Now, if you guys look 20 to 30 years back, there's always been expires and for sale by owners as far as I can go. I try to lead trace back, and I sometimes go in my database because I have expires from 2-3 years that I still haven't sold. Maybe because they have that bad taste in their mouth and they're waiting, like you said, David, for that election, for that rate to go down, for the Mars UFOs to land here. I don't know, so much going on in the news, man. That's why I don't pay attention to the news. But when it comes to a buyer agent, you have to level up your game as well and bring in those features, advantages, and benefits because, like you said, there's a lot of people that, and I'll be honest with you guys, there's a lot of people that go to my listing appointments and they'll throw their agent under the bus. Like, Alfred, if I go with you, can I get the house? And I'm like, no. You know, I don't want to do that. I want to do what's ethical. I want to do the right thing. But that's why you have to learn how to fact find and ask the right questions to get the right answers.
Boom, and that's why you're the GOAT. Look at that.
I try to be.
I have to even like say, hey, cut it, bro. That's too much.
I'm going a cappella right now.
You know, all the
So good, he's fired up. I love it.
yeah. That's why I like to have a variety on these webinars because you know, we got some great information with Melissa. She explained it great in her video. I love her tactics and techniques, and she handles things a certain way, has a certain person that she works with. And then you go with Alfred and he's like, whoa, high energy. He has other people that he works with as well. And then I kind of feel like myself, I'm a little bit more on the mellow side. I'm in between like Alfred and Melissa when I need to. And there's agents that are all across that spectrum. And it's good to hear from all of us because at the end of the day, we all have our own little niche. We all have people that are going to like us and not like us. And we need to get a feel for how's Alfred doing it? What's he doing? What's Melissa doing? What's David doing? How Roberto putting together all these different things that he's doing. So it's almost 1 o'clock. I know we got another call that we're going to jump on. We appreciate you, Melissa. Before we're not letting you off the hook that easy. One more last thing. Alfred, Melissa, I want you guys to role play real quick if you can. You're an investor that's worked with Melissa in the past, Alfred, and she's gonna take your listing appointment and you're gonna bring up the NAR settlement real quick.
Did he buy the house? Did I help him buy the house he flipped or what? Or he's brand new?
He's just an investor that sold a few homes in the past. I don't know, he could have bought it or not, but he might have bought others. But you're his agent, you're his go-to agent. But now he heard about this NAR settlement, and now he's kind of questioning it. Let's do a quick little, you know.
Are we at the kitchen table or she's calling me?
She parked in you parked in her driveway. You're at her kitchen. You're at they're at your kitchen table. Actually, she parked in your driveway, Alfred. You're at your kitchen table, so it's almost a done deal. But you have this NAR question here.
Got it. So I'll start it off. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for coming. What did you think about the house?
Love it. I think it's great. It's perfect. It's perfect for, I envision a younger couple. This is going to be great for them.
Awesome. So you think you'll be able to give me that 500,000 I want?
I don't think that'd be a problem at all. I think
Awesome.
500, we're right there for sure.
Got it. And you know what also excites me? Melissa, that I don't even have to pay for that other agent no more. I'm just excited to pay you that 2%. Which is awesome.
I love that too. No, but listen, I have to be honest with you, Alfred, because if I'm not honest with you, then I'm not doing my job to protect
Absolutely.
you.
If you're not honest with me, you would not be sitting down.
So let me tell you, that's one of the biggest misconceptions about this whole settlement stuff is that the commissions were never negotiable and that, you know, sellers always had to pay and all this stuff. That's not true, right? So commissions have always been negotiable. The reason most sellers were accustomed to paying the buyer's broker is to help the buyer out, right? Because without a buyer, we can't sell a house. You could have 19 houses for sale, but if we don't have buyers who can afford to buy them, it's going to be pretty tough. So that, you know, a little bit of money you got to front out to help them be able to have appropriate representation is going to go a really long way for you. And so it would be, I want to be fully transparent about that. No, you do not have to pay buyer's broker. However, it might be a huge competitive disadvantage if you don't and end up costing you more money on the back end on top of time is money. And so I know you want to get this house sold. So, you know, we want to get it under contract as fast as possible, and we'll be able to do that.
Pay
I'll
up,
help the
Alfred,
buyers
pay
out.
up. Time is money.
And you know what, Melissa, you actually make a point. But let me ask you this: what happens if you find me the buyer? Do I have to pay you on the buying side?
Yeah.
So,
So yeah. I mean, so I will.
Give it
am
to
more
us.
than
Right on the
happy
nose.
to-
Right on the
I
nose.
am more than happy to work both sides of the transaction. Now the buyer would then be treated as a customer. You're still my client. But yeah, so my fee for that is XYZ, and it, you know, depends on my relationship with Alfred. But yeah, I mean, you know, look, I got to go and show the house now, get the lights turned on, do the whole thing.
Pay
So
us, Alfred.
essentially, it's both sides.
you know what,
Yeah.
Melissa, make it happen. Where do I sign?
Let's do it.
Let's do
Boom.
it.
We're closers right there, baby. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys being on. Alfred, you killed it. Melissa,
Thank you.
incredible. We love your video. We're gonna send out your content to the people that came, the people that didn't show up, and to our list.
And send me something. So I've got that NAR settlement lawsuit kit. It's Canva templates, and then there's a workbook and this whole stuff, one for your clients, one for you as an agent. But I can get some unlocked access for that. So like, I don't know where we're streaming at right now, but maybe
We'll put it
like-
out in the group, and then we'll also send it out to the email list. Your link, you can get them to register,
Perfect.
to sign up and do that. So we'll send it out in the email list to all of our agents.
But I want to give some of them away. So you just, you know, you decide how you want to do that.
Okay,
Send me
maybe we'll do a
some
little-
emails and-
We'll do a little
Little
giveaway.
giveaway. Let's do
We'll
a
talk
little
right after.
giveaway.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk after. We're gonna jump on another one, but thank you so
Cool.
much for.
Thanks,
for being
guys.
here.
I enjoyed it.
Thanks,
I
Roberto.
appreciate it. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much, Melissa. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank
Thank
you guys.
you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you guys for staying through. A lot of good value. If you guys found a lot of value, remember, check your emails. We're gonna send you more invitations. We're gonna have more, and check your emails within the next 24 to 48 hours. We're gonna be sending out a few more details on the giveaway. We're gonna be sending out a replay of this recording. We're gonna be sending out some additional stuff. So thank you so much, Alfred. Thank you so much, Melissa. We'll see you again.
Melissa,
I appreciate
Have
you.
again, Melissa.
It was a
Melissa,
pleasure.
Melissa, pleasure meeting you, and
So
I'm
nice to
excited to
meet
see
you.
what happens in the next
I want
6
to come
months
to
for all of us.
California. I want to come to California and check it out.
You
Meet guys.
come here, we're gonna take you to Disneyland. All right?
Yeah, I'm all about it. And the taco truck.
And the taco truck. Bye, guys.
All
Later,
right, guys.
Robert.
Thank you so much.